Page 3, praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, to the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakti clan. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for it. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakti clan. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When I supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth. You paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies, formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds. Winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies in all aspects. With supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foul faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Page 15. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on a massive Altus mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perfection. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Apachavara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom. Those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Apachavara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Apachavara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom, to look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates, inherent nature, Form is empty, emptiness is form.
Form.
Not other than form. Form is not.
Form is not other than emptiness.
Same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Saraputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Saraputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no eye element and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance and no extinction of ignorance and so on, up to and including no aging and death and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and power. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Completely pass beyond error to reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as the truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Payata gate gate paragati parasamgate bodhisoha. Saraputra, the bodhisattva mahasattva, should train in the profound
perfection of wisdom like that.
Bhagavan arose from that concentration, commended the bodhisattva Arya Avichavara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you've indicated. Even the Talikas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvaraputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avichavara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Page 25 for the short mandala. Saji poke judging me tok drum, re robbling she need again party. Getting the Hawaii, Rakun Nam Dakshing La Chopasho, Jetsun Lama Dampa Kinam Ki, Jokukala Kense Chendring, Jeta Sampe Do Jason Mala, Dake Choke Chapa Tu So. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. Ke charan soke charam la jancho baru dang kapsu chi dang chi pai sonam ki chola penche sange rupa sho. Ke charan soke charam la jancho baru dang kapsu chi dang chi pai sonam ki chola penche sange rupa sho. Ge choran soge choram la jancho baru rang kapsu chi dagi chunyenge paiso nam ke chola penche sange rupa sho.
Chanabe modern danger the show, and the Lama Rambuch. Daki Joe Bende de Junior, Condition Conditions on the Kusan to Jimo to Teto, so. I had done the Kuno Comshira, and some Zumia de Raniji Buge. They don't be actually Mayimba, and Rana Kadinji Vesimji. Tamje la Pemba to be actually. Nimbada, Sambada, Combachi, some shit, Nicono, Deji Shosra.
Firstly, meditating on motivation, correcting our motivation for the class on concentrations and formless absorptions, not just for you, but to fulfill the needs of all sentient beings, to benefit them. One will here reflect and meditate on this.
하야다 알았지 안야 삼수 돌아야 퇴섬 신규 중한테 껴서 뭐랬어 이거 공부했어
Again, to hear and reflect on this class of concentrations and absorptions is fortunate. We should rejoice in that opportunity.
뭐야 다음도 이놈아 요 직딩벨람 직딩len 데벨람스 대다가 남샤 신시와스 아니 직딩벨람 다데 안단다 신예다 직딩벨람들은 직다 시라 남지랑 항도 찬이 무요래 다데 녀모 문주와 봉베 탑람다 한 녀모 문주와 봉베 빵바 톱된저지 남자 시기요를 했어 다데라 베나 ngaranzo dewe nyomo ngjo pande samde thamu shi thotoya dewe nyomo ngjo panje lamdela nyeto se wa samde tham dos ande dewe nyomo ngjo pang pa thamde samde thamu shi padus chene jigdimbe lamdela samde thangbo samde nyewa samde sumba samde shiwas she ande ne nagata ya namjita jeme sidis samde sume shi samde shi chejawa dus jigdembe lamdilla samzu gas shigi yo resro da te sammo nyumungu pangbe tablan da nyumungu pangbe pangba chane ani mingdi ta go resro
Mm-hmm. So looking at the cultivation of the four concentrations and formless realm absorptions from the perspective of mundane and supermundane, firstly in terms of mundane cultivation, with the cultivation of calm abiding and special insight, and abandoning the desire realm afflictions initially in their manifest form. So independence on the demerits of that desire realm, obtaining firstly a preparation in terms of the first concentration, and then an actual absorption of that first concentration, and then sequentially moving through the respective four concentrations, and then going up into the formless realms of infinite space, infinite consciousness, nothingness, without discrimination. So, abandoning, and kind of in a mundane sense, these afflictions that are manifest, but not abandoning them at the root. Yes.
ta nyumungu pangdang khandele la yuna penang anzo pandang anzo shine gumgurwa shine ni shine mangum kongla anzo anzo ukjung gomjabda de sewa hakora sem tambachi semba jiwara wadende dan chi yewe khadura ni uju gomyago ja ukana simyago nena tangi gi semba jiwa shukchimbo yonjo de khaduk de la mewa chadwa de ngo kharchen chagorasna tangi ngo semde semma jiwa kana de de ro chis e su khajuje uju gi sem neje sharo ne ukana sem neje sharo shadu ni semde 마지와 제야게 고갑디 내갑디라 매우스르와 그래서 디인데 네 띵인진다 신내도 띵인진 때부터 보여라 미국지 간라 네 제샤요데 이거서 심 초도야 직심 되자 시다 콘동아 예도서 문주바도서 다 매우 차도 제야게 고갑 좀 다가나래 시다 디치 하나도다 곰자고요 말이지 곰잡나 곰자 배전체나 네디 뭐야디 갈래 가고 싶게 말했어 나다 딜라 내자고 고거를 심내와 내자고 유나 디 용구요 레스티 로
How then, in terms of calm abiding, to abandon the manifest level of these desire realm afflictions before even cultivating calm abiding proper? We need to focus and concentrate on our breath, because it is the mind that needs stabilizing from distractions. And by placing the mind on the breath, that's the best way to reduce those distractions, to reverse them. So then by placing the mind single-pointedly on the breath, one doesn't give the mind that opportunity for discursing, for distraction. So that calm abiding or single-pointed concentration destroys the chance for the gross level of these afflictions to manifest, such as desirous attachment, aversion, and so forth. So except for meditating or not putting effort, it's not extremely difficult to abandon this level, but one needs to train. One needs to train in Nal Sha, which means to place the mind single-pointedly. Yes.
다드네 니와 직딘레 데벨람스레 직딘레 데벨람기 아니 뇨모 사원데 저 라미 지베 추진데 저 진짜 게임이죠 사원데 저 방 텔레ян다 심라과 와 단지라고 또다 먼저 때 직전에 데벨람지 녀모가 자고 그래 단지리더라 지난 단지 데 도지 로데 담에도 베셔라지 그냥 담에 또 버전이 뭐로 담에 무슨도 또 연디 아니 담에 무슨도 또 연디 아니 단지 베디 게 메오마세 lar 게야게다 지 lar 게면 요소 샤고라 lar 미기we 추지 지난 디인디니 직딘len 대화라고 좀젠테라 그래서 나도 직딘 봤을 때 아니 요몽은주 어디라면서 갑자기 자투고야 말해 직딘len 대화라윈디 지 요몽 사면되죠 세상 단단한서 파과 직딘len 대화스니다 파과 축 군조 숨는다는 아니 축군조 긴두군조 도비하게 상담들 봐 너도 덴바시나네 람덴다 꼭된 톱세 상담들 직딘len 대화스 요러
When we talk about the supermundane path in this context, one is not only abandoning the manifest level of afflictions, but together with the seeds, so that those afflictions do not return. So here we're setting out to firstly abandon the gross level of self-grasping. Well, self-grasping is the root of the mind's difficulties and samsara, so one needs to cultivate the wisdom, consciousness, realizing emptiness or the lack of intrinsic nature. Not just cultivate it, but have direct insight into that path consciousness so that these manifest delusions do not return. And this supermundane, the notion of the supermundane, beyond the worldly, vanquishing the disturbing emotions together with the seeds, relates to the state of an Arya. So from within the triple gem, we're talking about the Dharma, the cessation, and the Arya beings. So the border then is going to be those of true cessations and true paths. Here in the mundane level, we've only temporarily suspended the afflictions, but with supermundane, we're getting to that cessation and true path level. Yes.
그래서 단다 템바통을 편바면서 지들len 대화데 더 음마란 유에는 음마tin 유에는 다음에 동반이 무슨도 통용 거라 템바통수도 동반이 템바 난 템바 동반이 무슨도 통어라 이 통인자 펜질레스다 코알라 겨레 레서도 사요 말스 그래서나 먼저 땡땡라 주니는 전지에 레사야게 통매게 당보 말 자와 규가레스나 단지 말이고 임바 그래서 단지 말이고 다음에 무슨도 또 단지 말이고 그래서 그거 그런 요 말아 매인지 상관라 대군에라면 레사요 뭐 김진단데 말해도 하시다 데마통 편범에스타 파과 동반이 지진len 대회 람톱 차네 동반이 무슨 또 차네 아니 레 사르도 사야 코발레 겨편 레 사르도 사야 지 요마레스 거라다 제선디죠 다 내가 전부를 신해야 될 바면서 먼저 대윤처 망고 제대다 카레를特别하시디 최고를 라디 타도는 코드 방고요라 거 방야라니 거 겨레 레 자와 섬 마르고드 방고로 대방에 방에도 매 상당히 되지 도스네 또 동반이 무슨 또 눈에 레 사야 그거 비메오 서사샤 레서도 사야면 도스로 그래서 레서 사면은 동에 가와다 나와다 치와다 동에 치외나 파베 어디 줄라면은 파베 가다 나와다 치외 동에 전에 방송도 지든 잠보 공부 줄라면은 파과를 가와다 나와다 그래서 이 가외 동에 여러 나외 동에 치외 동에 깨외 동에 근데 요 말에서 제가 잔진 파과를 시거라 대단데 돈이 무슨도 또 이제 파과 차로 거라 내가 되지 김진단 덴바 그래도 김진단 덴바시 레도 하더라
Then with the regards to then the supermundane level, what we hear from the middle way consequent school is that those that see the truth are directly benefiting. Benefiting mean that when one sees the truth directly, no new karma in the context of cyclic existence is created. And if we look at it in terms of the 12 links of dependent arising, the first link of marikpa, avidya, or unknowing, the ignorance which grasps at true existence, once a valid path consciousness is manifest, there's no chance for that link to remain. So therefore, it is said that seeing truth directly is beneficial in this regard. So Aryas directly see such a lack of intrinsic nature, so therefore no new karma is created. And this is important for us to know in the context of Dharma, because we might think, what's the purpose of Dharma? The purpose of Dharma is to abandon the root of cyclic existence, which is this ignorance grasping at true existence. So therefore, when the wisdom path consciousness is created, no new karma is created. And as is stated by Maitreya in Gyulama, the Arya Bodhisattvas go beyond having to experience birth, age, sickness, and death because no new karma is created. So what do they directly see? So here the reasons are given for its cultivation and the result. Also.
제다 그남샤 셰와스라 윤디 직된나 직된레 데베 람그남샤 셰 다당보 직된베 람데라 여니샤드와 뇨모제다 뇨모 타바와스 뇨모제다 타바와스 다 무시 뇨주 뇨모제사지 셰겨다 어다 디 칸데레스 다디 셰겨 단다간들와.
So that is a demarcation between like mundane and super mundane paths with regards to these 8 levels. And then within the mundane one, we can talk about an afflicted level and a pure level. Those are good to know too.
다 무슨 뇨모제사디 뇨모주게 다 티니시고다라 제준 레스와 무슨 뇨모제사디 뇨모주게 제준이 뭐 간실라 근데 저 롱마딩기와 디바임발로 롱마딩기 아니 심지직보다 총대나 제외니 딘데게 아니 시든바미과데 뇨모제세 뇨모제지 티니 신샤고 레스라.
Namjuk Nyumunchen. Okay. So first we have on page 21, the definition of an afflictive meditative absorption is a common locus of being a substantial continuity of meditative absorption and an obscuration that is associated with a neutral mind of single-pointed concentration.
다데 뇽주뇽모지 신이제로 그래야 아니 상대 당고네 시지바데 게요레스 다데 월망도 뇽모 데 베닝조버데 마도샤나디 단다디 신이디 코델레야로 오기 데 단다디 제시나 데 펜도그레 테나 뇽주뇽모지 셰발라스 뇽모지 강기 뇽모차베 시 텔레요 시오다 강 뇽모바 차베 시 강기 뇽모노 제베 최 지다 뇽모베 치즈 뇽모진라 예라나 미저베 균제스와 다디 균제 시고네마 셰고다.
So then those, with this general definition of an afflictive meditative absorption, we can apply that to the 8 from the first concentration up to the peak. And it's quite nicely set out as to how that affliction occurs with these 4 kind of sections, page 21. So the basis for becoming afflicted, the phenomena that make them afflicted, the way in which they're made to be afflicted, and finally, the reason for not positing the aspect of branches for the afflicted. Mhm.
당근시 뇽지 뇽모지 자베 칸 뇽모마 체베 시디 가레스나 라 당고디 아니 삼데 당고네 수메지 파게 무신님주 타바 무신님주 뇽모제나 타바와스 니셰고라 다 뇽주 문에 다 타바와데 싶고 뇽모마 체베 시디 아니 뇽주 타바와데 스텔라예나 삼데 당고네 시제파드 니 게요르와 어디레스 임베 김제 가레스 레멘데 인데스에도 이제네 컴 임베 인데스에도
Mhm.
임베 김제 가레스는 아 임베 김제 가레 라비나 네 대달라 냠바샤고나로
Mhm.
아 임베 김제 가레 대달라 냠바샤고나 다 뉴주 뉴모시 타바와들 냠바샤요 뉴스 그래 아니 치르와 코 당보 뉴주 뉴모 타바 임바체
Mhm.
냠바샤 냠샤르와 뉴주사 아니 뉴모버시 지르와 뉴모제니 교와 체스타 뉴모버데 시와 타와가제 마리바 시와 타와가제 마리바 시게 아니 코 레토고요다 로아 강뉴모 제베 뉴모데 시딜라 당보 제 뉴주 임베서르체 안델라 파심데 다연디 야면은 시베 고 뉴모지 차로 야면은 따베 뉴모지 차로야 야면은 엘레로야 야면은 마리발레로 근데 제운디 놓고 뉴모지 뉴모지에서 근데 뉴모다 데베 되어와 어디로
Now, in context of explaining why theirs are afflicted or the basis for affliction, because there are pure actual meditative absorptions of the concentrations and formless realm absorptions. And one can engage at that time in the purity, for example, of the absorption, but latterly they can become afflicted. So you've got a pure absorption, but then when examining the mind, one can see that the mind still is together with affliction. So what type of the afflictions can taint the mind from those pure states? That can be craving, bad views, pride, or ignorance. Mhm.
이제 간 뉴모제베시 뉴모 아니 뉴모 마체베 추디 다시리 시바다와가 예 마리바 시디레와 세바사데 되자레 와 세바사데 되자체 타와사데 아니 랑게 미과치라 미네데 다 탄니녜게 로치라 타와스고레 나제니 카고라 켐바텔라 시로와 마리발라데 메셰바 야 디젤라 뉴모라고 준된 가레스라나 델라 뉴모라고 아스라다 남베 뉴모스 망고지 시지보다 델라 뉴모라고 준제 가레라나 뉴모세데 니 데다랑라 랑줄레데 칸산라 덴친제 랑기 심규 마시오소니 콘돌라 첼레디요레 세바 간조 되자요나 아니 되자게 되자단 덴세 심데 마지오스 아니 심데 마지오스인데 아니 간조 심데 덴베 미데 마지오스인고다 다 되나네 따와래 다 인상 점블링나라 지 녀라마고 지와야데 따외 용되고요 따와로 따와게 점블링나는 거라서 다지 채사 아니지 개가 빈주기 아니 맞아 이제나 녜게 개가디 따와디하고 아니 출루 빈주
Mhm.
출루 매워다 출루 요거들 이 샤사니다 샤마스니 바로 따와 금에다 부기 바로 따와 미가워다 나고 따와 추부다 방고기 따와 먼저 연대 여와다 연대 매매 따와 아니 다든데 간다 따와 치야 쉬어져 봐 따와디 따와스니 자신부 쉬어져 봐 그래서 따와디 줄에 때 친제 따와 줄에 이 미디 셈디 뚝샤고요 셈디 뚝에인다 아니 미디 뚝도고요 봐 다데나 징아제 셰모거로 당아제 셰모거로 당은 점블링나라 그래서 지 튜남 망고지 모여야지 나젤네 거랑에
Mhm.
에디 초레 나야가니 나렐 하가메세 딜립사두 아니 데 심디 투도 심주 마시고서 자라 심주 마시고서도 아니 데디 미디 마시고서 자라 마리고다 대베장 셰모거로 미시베 엉게니즈 망고 용데 주 제가 뉴몬라야 돼 단다데 되게 상무 뉴몬에 시바타와 가게 말고 시디 뉴몬라고 준진디 라 줄레데메 칸상 유 심지 여러봐 심디 마시와 마투와 마지와 소녀게 아니 칠레요 니들라 심중들라 아니 뉴몬스네 민다레스로
Mhm. Looking at then these bottom of page 21, the phenomena that make those minds afflicted, craving, bad views, pride, and ignorance. So, why then are these called afflicted? And we hear this often in Buddha Dharma. What's the reason behind it? It is because when the person's mind becomes afflicted with these, it makes the mind perturbed or upset, or it's a mental factor that functions that way to make the mind unpeaceful. Therefore, the person becomes unpeaceful, such as craving. Craving is really desire. And this second one of views, we can see that in the world, a lot of problems come because people adhere to views. The fighting between countries, the fighting between religions and non-religions, between meat eaters and non-meat eaters, males and females, holding to white and black people and so forth, the rich and the poor, those with knowledge and those without. All of these come, there are just so many views. And as long as that person is holding a view, then that is together with that view making the mind perturbed or making the mind unpeaceful. Not need to mention pride, that, you know, one has pride or like my idea is best and so forth. Not need to mention ignorance, that we are unaware, and independent on that unawareness, the mind is afflicted. So once again, the notion of them being afflictions is that it's a mental factor that once is produced, makes the mind unpeaceful, upset, or perturbed. That's how they function.
지난달에 시바타와가 제디제 콩라 저요단 군두님과 다통아 시메시지니오바 대다시당아 제모스 군두레 룽데마데베 자와시 시바타와가 제디 다 콩디게 셰레 다 녀모바 샤베 추에디체 녀모 지다 녀모 지두디 가래 숨바라와 하디미니 요다 마지 야고다 데르와
Lateral. So at the bottom of page 21, and it gives the source explanation for this from Vasubandhu's Zu, or Treasury of Knowledge. The Western Vaibhashikas say that there are four, no other than those of craving, bad view, pride, and obscuration. Moving on then to the way in which they are made to be afflicted. This is quite nicely set out, page 22.
다치다 녀모바 제베 추 숨바디 가르스나 빼나 당보디 시바게 아니 녀모 녀모 타바디 녀모 치즈 가르스에 온데 와다 녀모제 당보 녀모 타바를 때 아니 디네 시발레 온데 다디 녀모제 차로 거래라라 아디라도 삼디 중우시 녀모 타바올라 냠바샤바 주베 샤베 체로와 세세고 삼디 중우시 녀모 타바올라 냠바샤베 체 녀모가 로뇨용 거라 뇽주고 로냐 뇽주고 로왕게 아니 나게 겨와 인양사 나가 뇽주 겨와래더라 뇽주 겨와지 지고스 다 로냐 용데 아니 로뇨 델라데네 세바체네와 아디 겨와 예용고라 데와델라 세바체 네 세바데다 아니 나게 데 타바와디 마 주인디 냠제 아니 고 세바데다 송된도 손치오래 송된데 세바나 아니 뇽주 뇽모 제인세 다다 도고다 고 제상 고지 뇽주게 제주인인세 친구랑 라성아 뇽주 타고에 제주인체 치수 세바당 다들 도단데 닌저보다 nga nyumju di gewara gewe di nyang di gewa de la chakwa je seba de ane nyumju ge ze yun de dang ane seba de ni chungden de ni gyuwa de che ane sibe ane nyomo ba chi zu res je da sibe nyomo ba nyumju nyomo ba chadang de mo de res res da di be kasebu do de na lo
It's clearly said then how that from the perspective of being in an absorption, which is an actual absorption, which is pure, it is virtue. But latterly, due to craving that or clinging to the taste of the bliss of that, then the mind becomes together with craving. So this is with regards to, for example, the concentration, although it's a pure absorption of an actual concentration, although previously virtuous, as it clearly says here, when later being associated with craving, that it experiences the taste of meditative absorption or bliss, then in fact it becomes tainted by that craving or afflicted by that craving. Yes.
다 되네 따웨 nyumu chi de she go ya samde ngu shi nyumju thawala nyamba shabwe che nyumju thela te ne ro nyumju to de ngu she chi thogo ra ngu she de thoge ni ngu ge thada chime tharo ji jawa ngama thaya jawa chima thaya nga su su jawa ngama je to de ka she jawa chima la ka do me thon yu 아니 가 로녜데 가 요데 요데 가라레샤스 단다 뇨녜데 가 치마 로녜데 가라레샤스데 니 지게 따고오녜베 따오녜베 지고라 따고 데네 따고오녜베 와 가르스니 아니 에 nga 겨가마라 다 나라 요베 인자 아니 다 나데 다데 가마 용고도 팁참에 겨 치물레 두고도 tinzanta tawa resha nyam ane tawa tindeege tawa ngenpa dege ane nyumju ge tawa te ta nga ge nyumju tawa ge ze yunde ma chungden song de yang ko nyomo jen cha song nyomo jen se nyomo da denpa nyomo da chungden de chim jin zan na tawe nyomo ba shedan de song song ro
Secondly, regarding views, independence on cultivating a pure meditative absorption of a concentration, and then through the clairvoyance, one can see independence on that absorption, one's past, or sometimes, some cases, one's future lives. And one sees that there's a notion of I that is involved in that past life, and then I that's related to that future life or goes on. And in the notion of the I being permanent, one can cling to that. One can cling to that notion of permanence. So then one comes to the conclusion of this erroneous view or bad view, and the mind becomes together with that affliction, sungden, together with that affliction. Los.
다드네 따웨게 니 송데 시단데 양 테체 nge den de top nga nyum ju den de top da mi shin ge top yo ma re sa nga je je da ba nga je de da ani nyum ju ge ze yun de chong den de song yun de ya ko nyum mo jin che mi nyum mo jin wo le ju so res ra
And then there's the notion of from this kind of worldly perspective, the mind that gets this pride of inflation that I have attained this but others have not. So then the mind becomes concomitant, would you say, or together with that affliction and of arrogance or pride.
다드네 마리베게 송데 지데 양 대체 다그 토베 nyum ju de 타람 이나 마이 냠 랑로 몽베 투 텐좀 제데 로 와다 아야 nyum ju ji top song se ro 다데 타람 이나 메남 좀 그래서 당연히 지 롭존스니 지고야 계신 보러 와 롭존 마시나 아니 탈람 가리 이미다 미마신디 아니 야 또고 뇽주 그러 계베이나 데 탈람 이나 메냐 텐좀사 난 텐좀데다 아니 뇽주 제주 총대 소인디 아니 텐좀데 뇽주 지 알아 텐좀게 텐좀데 텐좀게데 가르스나 데 몽바디로 와 몽바 미시바지요라 미시 몽바 대단 총대인데 주인데 미시 몽바데 말이 거라와 제산디 말이 베게네 배 디치즈레스타
And now doubt. This is coming from a state of unawareness or ignorance. Has one attained to the state of liberation or not? Is this absorption that I attained the path of liberation or not? And this is very important in context of our study to be able to clearly know what is liberation, because we could get to a state of high absorption and doubt whether we are in fact in a state of liberation or not. And then the mind is substantially together with that doubt, afflicted by that doubt. And then doubt is a face of ignorance. So that's the fourth one.
내가 도바지제도와 도바할제에서는 예 단다 니 따베 니 유무시들이 니 무시 톱제로와 무시 그 경험마다 치마도와 현재 니 딜디네 따와 딱다지그레스인자 따베 순디시들레스리온데 수메데 무시 때마레스 수메게 단다를 여러 수메 삼지 나가대 노지에 시지도도 다고 무시 토베하게 때마레스로 무시 토베들 삼딩 무시 샤고 여러 저자다 수메 무시 때마인자 델라 따베 뉴모시지도 가레스로 만나지 무시 도게 경험마다 치마 또요 말아 이나야 이 근데 무시 때마인자 티 여레스 가르스나 나라 로바도가 줄레 덴시디로 다 섬외 무시라 아니 뇽바라 마주콘라야 록도 된대로 anga 록도 된대 록바토바 된대 요 어디 덴시디 아니 뇽주 타와라 톰네 네 다게 따와디 초이노 냠 된대다 그래서 그래서 다게 따와디 초이노서 따와지 마랑 그 따와디 따와 양다 오래샤 섬제니 된대 띵이지 일라들 아니 따베 따왕연바니 따왕연바 다게 따와다 nga logo to bade taw ngem barwa ta taw ngem bade cho ino ta taw chonzi ki ne taw je bana ne de nyu mo je ni chi du dres taw krwa
Then a doubt comes. So, well, then, since it is not a mental basis of support for clairvoyance of the formless realm, what is the way of causing the formless clairvoyance to be afflicted by view? So in the formless realm, there is not this basis of clairvoyance in the context of these views of past and future lives. But, that could potentially cause an afflicted view and so forth, but there is still the possibility of a wrong view, an erroneous view, so that, forms the basis, such as the thought, from the perspective of the pure absorption, my view is best. So my view is supreme, and through the force of this, I've attained this meditative stabilization. So that itself is erroneous, thinking that one's view is supreme. So therefore, it becomes together with affliction in the formless realm as well.
다드네 시와디 예라 삼 유모젤라 예라메베 김젠디네 당보 대응을 더와지 제도와 더와 가르제를나 삼대 중고신유주 유모제데다 삼대 중고신유주 말에서 왔다 유모제 삼대 중고신유주 유모제다 아니 삼대 중고신유주 겨시 삼대 중고신유주이나 개와용으로 유모제나 아니 디 개와 많이 버차로다 세상대에서 예 삼대 중요주의는 개와용고래스라다 이 유모제인베 실스타 따고도로 삼대 중고신유주 마인베 김제 가레스나 삼대 중고신유주이나 개와용고래스 유모주 개와제지 봤어 근데 대 개와 마인베 김제 가는데 유모제래스 제단다데 김제 세우셔도
Right. So the reason then for not positing the aspect of the branches for the afflicted those afflicted meditative absorptions of a concentration are not meditative absorptions of a concentration, because whatever is a meditative absorption of a concentration is necessarily virtuous, and those absorptions are afflicted. So here, from the point of view of being, afflicted or an act, but it's because it is said that the actual absorptions are virtuous, whereas the afflicted states are non-virtuous.
다디 쪼바드는 가시 접저바디 좀 먹어시라. 아니 어제디도 다디 신양 삼대 무신님 주디다라. 아니 무신님 주 마인데 삼대 연라다 미디 베시스타. 김제 대샤노디레. 삼대
Yes.
시와 연라 미디베 김제디 셰라. 연라 미디베 김제 가르스는 뉴모진라. 저자발레 뉴모진라 가와단 대와단 아니 시신단 당뇽단 첨바단 도서 요 말에스. 어디 저 콩답두제 연라메 김제디 콩데레라.
Yeah, so without going over the debates around those points about the concentrations, absorptions, being necessarily virtuous, and those absorptions being together with affliction, that kind of debate, going to the bottom of page 23, we'll just, moreover, that it is not an actual meditative absorption of a concentration, because that does not possess the branches of a concentration. Because Vasubandhu states, following page, from the treasury of knowledge to that which is afflicted, there is no joy and bliss, no clarity, introspection, mindfulness, no equanimity, mindfulness, and no purity.
다디 김제디 부부다레르 쳇테나 삼제 당보 무신님주 뇨모젠데라. 아니 원발레 기베 가디 페용기라 딩게 마레스로 가디 페용이라 데당위라 여라. 미데베 김제에서나 되베 뇨모 베 음바마인 베치스와 카라스나 한다 가디 페용이라 데라 되베 뇨모 그 원바인 거라. 단다디 되베 뇨모 그 원바 마르코나 되베 뇨모 레데라. 제단와
Okay, so yeah. So therefore taking the subject, Nyumongdang, together with affliction, and afflicted actual meditative absorption of the first concentration. It does not have joy, bliss, and the benefit branch that is generated from isolation because of not being isolated from the desire realm afflictions. That's all.
Something new which you mentioned. 아니 삼디니베게 연라라 나라데 타원님베 라이어와 때데 미덴베 중제 가르스나 아니 나라데 타원님베 라 딩게 마레스 삼디니베딜라와 가르스나 뇨몬바 토베 아니 몽바레스로다 삼디니베 무신유주 뇨몬젠데 나라데 타원님베 라 딩게 마레 중제 가르스나 뇨몬베 토베 몽바체 그랬고 그런 뇨몬베 토베 몽바체사 아니 뇨몬베 냠보텐다 용고 말아봐. So
going on to the second concentration, taking the subject, the afflicted actual meditative absorption of the second concentration does not have the antidotal branch of internal clarity because of being made obscured by investigation of afflictions.
아드네 삼디 숨베 유신님주 뇨모진디 최제 텐신신님베 라데메딘데 아니 뇨모진지 대외 꾸네 몽바체베 치스 티로사라
So taking the subject then, the third concentration, the afflicted actual meditative absorption of the third concentration, it does not have the antidotal branches, mindfulness and introspection, because of being made entirely obscured by afflicted bliss.
다시베 뇨모디 템바 땅뇨 용다기 뇨모에 라데 메덴데 뇨모베 티마진디 체베 치르스와 뇨모베 티마진디 체인다 아니 템바시제 땅뇨기 나 뇨모에 라 용싱 마라고.
And taking the subject, the fourth concentration, absorption, it does not have antidotal branches of mindfulness, equanimity, and thoroughly pure, because the afflictions cause it to be stained. Mhm.
근데 저기 공시 당도 저제나 삼제 당본이 원발레게 가와단 템바 네데 삼제 당고 무슨 요지 요문진데 세월에 되년이 얼마만에 배치를 시송 스타디 공디 셰르라
So the source from then Vasubandhu's Treasury of Knowledge, the first concentration does not have joy and bliss produced from isolation due to not being separated from desire afflictions. Mhm.
어디 단다 무슨 요지 요문진라데 땅상도 배제된데 로디디 다치나도 뭐 통용 거래 아 가시 무슨 요지 요문디 무슨 요지 레 태야냐가 여러 왔다 무슨 요지 요문진디 무슨 요지 레요 말해 마임베 줌젠디 아니 대시에서 강 뇨모모 제베시 강 뇨모 제베 최 지다 뇨모모 제주 뇨모제래 다디 숨게 되요래 고 뇨모게 레베 인자 아니 뇨조 마레스 이제다 코데오샤나 무슨 뇨조들라 개와인 거랬다 코데오샤나 뇨모를 개와인 샤요 말아와도 되리다 코데오로 소샤나로
Yeah, so that is going through the way in which these were made to be afflicted. But here we have to make a border between afflicted and not actual, and why the actual absorptions are not afflicted, because by definition, if they're actual absorptions, they are virtues. So if you read through the reasons that were just given, that should be clear. Mhm.
어야 다 진행 무슨 뇨조 타바오래 다 타고에 쓰니다 여와 다 두긴베 다 많다면서
So going then through the explanation of the pure as opposed to the afflicted, is that too much, or should we continue?
이런스 걸려 먹는 거니 걸려 가면
If you're okay to continue, I will.
또 아야 다 니와 무슨 뇨조 타바와 되다 세계열에로 니와
Mhm.
나 무슨 뇨조 타바들 강 고메 무슨 뇨조 신이 세고로 강 고메 무슨 뇨조 강 공만 라데 가르스나 강 공만 라이엔데 수단 수메 가롱라 거거라다 와 되바디 강 오마세다 강 오마다 타니에면 강 공만 라사나 야메나 수그레 야메나 수메레 데질레 거거 투유 베제나나 강 공마스라고도나 되발라 거자 그런 말다데 진짜 강 고메 무슨 뇨조 강시더라 좀제지 직림배 개와미고 제장다 개와인고다 근데 건설 무슨 뇨조 타바에 쓰니 제가 무슨 뇨조 될라 타바와 될라 개와인고다 개와미콜라데 개와미콜라야데 개와인발 코버 갑디와
Okay, so first we have definition of a pure actual meditative absorption of an upper level. So when we have this connotation of upper level, it's either going to be form or formless realm, meaning that we're discriminating them from the lower desire realm, and that it's necessarily mundane virtue is pure. So the two things, which is validated by Vasubandhu, that which is an actual meditative absorption of an upper level, meaning form or formless realm, a mundane virtue. And a mundane virtue, excuse me. Yes.
어야 아델라 제단 줄레 직된바이 개와니 타바데 다 개와인베 타바데라 직된베 개와인고와디 단데 개와디 직된베 개와래 직된베 개와서 사제이 개와래 와
Right. So Vasubandhu goes on to say in his source, the Treasury of Knowledge, mundane virtue is pure. So mundane virtue also reminding us that it is contaminated satya.
디네마 제송시 예나 삼제 당본에 시지파데 야와 제체로와 아니 진이디 다 삼제 당본무시 타과와다데 진이디 링다스 라이데 당게 진이데 삼제 당본무시 님주 강시 직데메 개와메와 삼제 니웨 무시 님주 강시 직데메 개와메와 두 슬랍샤는 디고다
Yeah. So when divided, there are 8 from the first concentration up to the peak of cyclic existence. The definitions are similar in type. So, you would go, for example, the definition of pure actual absorption of a first concentration is, second concentration is, and so forth, right up to and including deformed less.
Yeah.
So Matt just said that maintain weird.
Page 24. Yep.
Is it on? No. Sorry, it's just a question. Matt just said maintain virtue is pure and also that maintain virtue is contaminated. Is it
Yeah.
right?
Gisela, the
Right.
kasa. 직진단 직리 되어 직등기 개와 디 sakje wadiko.
사제 겨울은
How
Yeah,
does
yeah.
it- yeah, could
Yeah,
Gisela
di 개와 말베 그래서는 저직라 건조 그래서 직등기 개와 딱바레스 이나양 sakje레스 디니 개와 말베스.
딱바에
음.
원래 말말 직대에 겨와 딱바 가야 겨와 미다버라
말이 딱바장미 딱바 말이다. 딱바. Pure.
딱바
Yeah, pure. zergi kong nanglo yorwa.
타발라데 상메 사제 타발라고 말 타발라데 코란 민로와 타바서야디 민레 삼데 타바서 직년바에 겨와니 타발라데 아니 디 상메 비게제 말에 타바서야디 코란게 민레 민 아니 딜라니 네 겨와레 사제 겨와레라도 겨와요 말레스 디 겨와요 말레스 디
Yeah, the pure here is just the name, but because it's mundane, it is still contaminated.
어디지다 딜라이나 시지 섬리 동문에 시지 버디와 제샤송아
Really.
다디 당부 뒤라로 시지 파비니 아니 소메시다 삼디시다 소메 숨여와 네 당부 뒤보레레라야 아니 무시 님주 타바와 아 무시 님주 타바와 냠바 차디 네바 차디 켜바 차디 녜지 차디 어디 요레라 따라와 타바와들 냠바 차디 네바 차디 켜바 차디 녜지 차디 시시 요레스다
Right. So, moreover, for each of the first 7, there are 4 pure actual meditative absorption. So, then these qualifications concordant with degeneration, concordant with abiding, concordant with enhancement, concordant with definite differentiation.
딜라도 요레스다 시지라 켜발차디요 말했어 아 매베 중제데 켜발세야데 오사질레 오니 켜발도 파고 샤고라 뭐 켜발차디 차단 튜마 근데지 코로나 콘서트가 켜발도 차단 튜마지고라 콘서트다 시질라 콘서요 말아 시지스리다 도쇼드레데로 켜발차디사데 코로나게 그런 차디서 사 공사직 샤고요 때 대단 튜버로 디요 말에서 신다티 참아 요레스타디 신시디네말리르다
Right. So the examples will be explained below, but just to qualify, there's no concordance with the enhancement for the peak of existence because there's no higher level than the peak of existence. In other words, this notion of kind of non-concordance is independent on being equal to the step below it, or comparing to that step below it. But at the peak, there's no further to go, so therefore there's no concordance with the enhancement of the peak.
다디 데스 섭사제 말라나 디델달 추심 방울레니가 베나 콘 신숨 유에스라로 시즐라 요레스 타베나 고생무신님주 타바오 간시 제로와 다당은 디시고다 냠바차든 디시고다로 공부디 냠바차든 네바차든 겨바차든 이지차든 시나게 냠바차든스나 카레 슬라겐디 신이시엔 거로 고세 냠바차든디 컨데지레 라윈디 고생무신님주 타바오 간시 김제 찍 참고래 뉴신님주 타바오 인고레스 다 랑게 죽도 수스라 고랑게 강봉무신님주 대 죽도 아니 랑세 녀모 바타스 아니 랑게 녀모 바타 랑고 wakse 녀모 가루 깨와다 제스트 바데 냠바 차든스 다 냠로 치고 다디 가르스나 랑세 녀모 다 wakse 녀모 다 다워치 깨용 따라와 세바 다워 두자 다워 마제 다워 말고 다워치 깨용 내가 냠바 차든스 그때 다와디 양어스 차운데 아니 뭐네 것이 요모지 차로 거라. 것이 요모지 마차 건드려 가지라. 냠바 차든데 용고였다.
Okay, so this first step in definition of a pure actual meditative absorption of concordant with degeneration is, so here one is having the kind of concordance with the respective levels or being compared to them in terms of their, being equal, or there's reasons why they're similar and having like desire, ignorance, and so forth. So when one is in that pure state, there is that equality. But in terms of degeneration, you can see, the low. For example, the level you're on presently and the afflictions of the lower level, how they accord when one is not in a pure absorption in terms of being afflicted.
아데 어데데 디 가르스는 책디 디라고도 겨워단 제스 툼바 라고도 봐.
Yeah.
제스 툼바 사데 오네 마인이지라고요. 어데 되게 거들 책디 거들리고 그래서
Yeah, so like, being in accordance of one's level or the afflictions of a lower level immediately after itself. So, not the fact that they're there, but they accord with the current state, when you compare them to the level below.
이나네 승리디나네 먼저라 과가르라라나 단다 뇽무신유 뇽모제인디 냐메하게 뇽모데라 랑세게 뇽모다 오세 뇽모니 가능징 뇽고였다. 그래서 나데 다워지 깨용도 하고 랑세 냠바 차든디 레용디 랑세 뇽모다 다베 따와 오세 뇽모다 다베 따와지 깨용디 아니 뭐 냠바 차든 차레 되게 냠이야 말해 다 뇽모네 깨용디 아니 뇽모지 차로고 여러와
Yeah, so these are similar because the level of one is currently on and the level below it are similar in the way these kind of afflictions are produced, not in the state of absorption, but laterally when they're afflicted, they're, concordant like that in terms of degeneration.
konsengushnyumju tabao kanshi, dade yejwe tabao yinba di ta chwe sare, rwa. Ani rangi chukdu suus, rwa. Da tabao je sawe chukdu, ani rangsengushnyumju pena, da samde tangbo yina, samde dambushnyumju tabao shen chenpa si. Ko ngushnyumju dege yang, ngushnyumju shenji kya la, ko nugaji yungu yor, cheda. Dirida.
The next one, the definition of a pure actual meditative absorption concordant with abiding. That which is that, Trinity, that which is a pure actual meditative absorption of a higher realm that induces other pure actual meditative absorptions of one's own level immediately after itself. So in dependence on those higher realms inducing. Yeah, the next level. Yeah. Then
랑사 공무신님주 타바와 시엔템바사데 냐바차든지 다 개월 차든사데 아니 데 강하시 있어와 공무신님주 타바와 강하시 랑게 죽도스 랑게 공세 공무신님주 타바와 시엔템바 와난 제스템바 아 공무신님주
Ale.
타바 공무신님주 타바 공마디 여다 여마르들라 님주님주 타바와 시엔 뎀바데다 제스템바 공무신님주 타바와 페나 삼대 당보 공무신님주데나 아니 삼대 니베게다 디다오지 야 텐트여와
Ale. So what one is doing here is like inducing that similitude of pure actual meditative absorption. So, you know, you're on the level 1 concentration, but you're inducing that similar purity of level 2 and so forth, the one that's immediately after it. Yes. So that hence the notion of abiding. Mhm.
다드네 디 강시 랑 죽도스 사바메베 람신 템바다 제스템바스 데데데레 가자 예제 차든지 와
So the Angisambharawa. So the definition of a pure actual meditation absorption concordant with enhancement.
당연히
Discord.
준비했으니라도
Yeah. Sumbe, yeah. That which is that, a pure actual meditation absorption of a higher realm, concordant with inducing other pure actual meditative absorptions immediately after it. Dakpa.
다드네 시바딜라 데르다 안티 강시 랑게 죽도스 사메게 람신 템바라 제스템바와
Yes. So now, the definition of a pure actual meditation absorption concordant with a definite differentiation. So that which is an actual meditative absorption of an upper realm and concordant with inducing another uncontaminated path immediately after it. So that which is not contaminated, inducing that when you're in absorption.
이래도 된대래도 집에서 저래 다들 공시를 타관ኛ바 찾은 넘시티니 그런 시 너무 계단 라사다 혼단 삼의 제tum바와 그래도 공대 시에라
So now, page 26, the source from Vasabandhu. The pure meditative absorption is fourfold, partial concordant with degeneration and so forth. And they are respectively called concordant with generation of the afflictions, with pure meditation absorptions of its own level, and then higher, induced by the higher, contaminated, and then the uncontaminated.
어르신 나 시즐라 개발 차점에 좀제 시에도 알아 시즐라 개발 이 컨셉 매베 시사지 다다다 줘서 다 대다 뭐 저래는 시즐라야 상매지 매서 상매에 매서 와
Yeah. So then finally, as we mentioned previously with regards to the 7, in an uncontaminated actual absorption of the peak of existence is explained to be non-existent in the upper and lower Abhidharma, but it does exist in our system. So that of the discrimination and non-discrimination.
다단다데 뭔가 공어도요슬다 뭔가 공마디 뭔가 군디치 뭔가 오마디 뭔가 저셔와 뭔가 공어도 시징우신님줄라 상매 매와 셰장스 란루라 유스 란루카레 오마란주룰라 단단한데 오마란주루 시고라 오마란주에 루텔라 니 요레스 시질라 상매 요레스 상매 예베 푸지 시고라 반지지자베 니제 다좀바디 삼대 당무신님 주 터베체 이 대람중 오지베 삼수기가 태웨치스 다워드 두슬로다다 반지지자와라디 단다 오마란주룰라 반지지자와라인데 감송게 되베뉴모 수근뉴모 수메뉴모 직자의 방론이 중요하더라.
Narilla.
라좀 림제버스도 당보 되베뉴모 바 드네 수근뉴모 바 드네 수모뉴모 바 림제 방론이 지용거라. 어딜라 다 직자스도 단단 기생원서 녀도 미저메스니 셰송아 되게 샘된 체제 되게 얘도 메조 메셔야 되겠네 감성의 묘모 담지 메조면 빵토베야 누가도 콜레 여인자 아니 니도 다좀 봐 반지지야와 되게 저 얘도 메조 메텔 때네 네 되베뉴모 소구뉴모 소메뉴모 되게 직자도 빵도 거요 될래야 반지 직자와스 아니도 다좀 봐들라 림지 반데 다좀 봐 통리지 직자의 반의 다주마 통일지 니요. 짐지 반예디 당기 시원하시 당보시네 또 되네 삼대 당보 되베 뉴모 바 되네 소 뉴모 바 소대 삼대 당보 뉴모 바 니베 뉴모 바 스베 바 시와 바 되네 수미 나가 타야 바 나비 타야 바 지 제미 시지 바
rimbe cup the dog about.
어 림지 돈예 아니 시지 바도 되 감성 뉴모 탐제 바도 하네 다주마 탑도 거레스 데 림지 돈예들에 다 지자와데 엉보 넘어서다 내 치는 거 말아 niebuchigi khamsunge nyumo changma devjigla pandu yora de la banji ja wala de watirda.
Okay, so there are two views being talked about here on page 26 from the, the different sources from, like where it says an uncontaminated actual absorption of the peak of existence is explained to be non-existent in the upper and lower Abhidhammas, but it does exist in our system. And our system is middle way autonomous school from that perspective. So in terms of that, then we're looking at the abandonments, the objects of abandonments, for example, from the Hieropho destroyer, who simultaneously abandons the objects of abandonments of the actual absorption of the first concentration, and attains all 8 concentrations that are the entity, the nature of the supermundane path. The reason is established below. So we can talk about going through the abandonments sequentially or doing it in one step, meaning one either goes through abandoning the objects of abandonment of the desire realm and dependence on calm abiding and special insight, and then sequentially moving through the form and formless realms, doing it by steps, or one can do it in one go. And if one does it in one go, then one obtains that arhathood, or the fruit of the foe destroyer. Yes.
De la ranglu la yede sta panji jijawe es nyinde dajumba the samde thangbo mushinyum ju tawe che ani delam ju ngo jiwe samsu gega se samde nyewa sumba shiwa sume shi gega jija de top de gore wa gega jija top so gega tawe che se do made
Yeah, so the objects of abandonment, attains the actual absorption of the first concentration, attains, of that Hieropho destroyer, attains all 8 concentrations that are the entity or the nature of the supermundane path. That's how it's done in one go.
dine nyewa ta mushinyum ju sangme de chini she go do dine konse mushinyum ju kan shi serwa koise dena konse mushinyum ju kan shi jigden len dewe gewar mi was ane konse mushinyum ju sangme gi chini re ta da sangme sa de jigden len dewe lamla sangme kyap jigden be lamla saje yin go cheda jigden be gewa de la saje jigden len dewe gewa de la sangme gewas ta de dine sewo shiu che go da
So now differentiating between supermundane paths and mundane paths by definition, whether or not they are uncontaminated or contaminated is the border. So for supermundane paths, the definition of an uncontaminated actual meditative absorption of an upper realm is that which is a meditative absorption of an upper realm and a supramundane virtue. So necessarily then the mundane paths are together with contamination. These are without or uncontaminated. So that's quite clear. It goes on to say uncontaminated is beyond the mundane.
de zöle samye jigden dewa o jeson samde thamune sizi pa de ke ta ranglo la sizi la samye yo yin da samde thamune sizi pa ya yo re so da
And then from our lineage or our school, middle way autonomous, uncontaminated is beyond the mundane. When divided, there are 8 from the first concentration up to the peak of existence. Mhm.
oh yeah that something in love is on the dos that show dos that in ma ya dos da show dos
So this next explanation of the branches we've already been through. Today we've covered a fair bit, it seems.
oh yeah that didn't ma wo do ni Dunda jema ngando dinda di yomar da chanan zo drilling che ro me de ran le kunsin dunda jema ne konzo konan zo
Dunda
di
jema ko lamrim ki ko lagar bar ko.
dunda mar dunda jema next dunda jema lamre re mara next week no lamre
No, not lemon, this is concentrated and absorption.
no next week
Oh, so next, you're doing only Jolinche? Kasigari.
no I can't hear we go to only
Well, yes, but it's got nothing to do with lemon.
no
2 weeks, not 10.
yeah man the next week I think they can do discussion you can do discussion
Okay.
Wangate online to da online to da
Legisla Auckland chikto do. Los next week zinte yom madi.
konzo kono de kisin presentation je wa
Yeah.
ti du kisin di ma konzo keje share de kono drilling che shana ya wo
So next week, it is good for you to discuss your presentations in this time next week.
and dine discussion che and susu dam ro nga de sharing dam and dam je introduction digra ro
And then having discussed, one can make one's choice or decision and say, this is what I will present. And then you can prepare.
dido
Okay.
me ran kunzire
Matt gets a holiday.
yeah oh yeah oh yeah I shall de
We'll stop now.
이거 들어 있어 들어 왜
Questions now, please.
Does anyone have questions?
Philippa has
I've got a
question.
question.
Mhm.
My question is, right, so, Gisela went through the abandonment of the 9 levels of affliction of the desire realm, you know, like great, middling, and small.
Mhm.
So, with the preparations to which are abandoned on the preparations to the first concentration,
Mhm.
the 9 levels of afflictions of the desire realm are abandoned,
Mhm.
great, middling, small,
Mhm.
the 3 of those. So the question is, when we come to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th concentration and the absorptions, are there also those same 9 levels of affliction, great,
Yes.
middle, or with their divisions? So,
Yes.
so the 9 levels of affliction on each of those,
Yes.
which are, yeah.
Okay, so the question is, in terms of abandonments, taking the afflictions of the desire realm as our focus and sequentially abandoning the abandonments in terms of great, medium, and small as a preparation for the first concentration, do these continue in kind or similarly in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th concentrations? Is that it?
Yeah, the preparations, yeah, during
Yeah,
the
yeah.
preparation. Yeah.
Gisela ngansa tangbo samjan tangbo ki nyomjuk ki chadi cherawa didi.
Sorry.
Dikapla pangdang pena depen yamong ki pangdang rimbadi. Chimbu ding
Really.
chimbu ding chungwa rimbe kapna pangur wadi.
Really.
Dine samjan tangbo ma se Nipa, Sumpa, Shipa, Tagarang, Gu,
Really?
Gu, Gu, Chipa Res.
Wachirare, da samde tangbo de dewe nyomo lok chera, samde niwa di samde tangbo nyomo la yawa chegora, nyombo chegora.
Reze.
Do cheche, niwa ya changma la ringda tang je, chinding chungsung bangje shaya res, thana res, dradang jigwa.
Yes, that is correct. For example, when you're on the first concentration, you would look at the merits of the second concentration. And when you are, applying countermeasures to those afflicted states of the first concentration, again, yes, the sequential abandonment of great, medium, and small by way of the 9 stages is exactly the same as it was for the desire realm, right up.
Okay, so that means there's 81 afflictions, 9 times 9. And
Yeah.
and if you abandoned all 81 of those afflictions, do you become an arhat?
Dindi songsang di nyamong gu jirwa gu dang gu jana jadi je chik nyamong jadi je chik pang sa ne da chomba trebu top grbes.
Really, top ne? Rimjinde pondo yidra.
Yeah, that is the mode of sequential abandonment. Correct.
Oh, marda.
Mari.
Mare, CZ was you told me, she doesn't tell you, Mare, and when you
Yeah, of course. Here we have to be careful. One has only obtained peak of cyclic existence at this level. One hasn't obtained the fruit of a foe destroyer.
The Dajum Batuela, Jigdin and David Lang, Tanda Jigdin Belang,
yeah, because to get that fruit of an heart, we have to enter into a super mundane path. Here, we're talking about the abandonments from the context of mundane only. Yeah, I mean, in past lives, we have already obtained these countless times. But we've forgotten when we did.
And so at what point would one become the arhat on this cycle? I mean, is that an individual matter or?
Ale dine di rimbe pangdang kapla kasa cha chambo kadu top gre. Dine depenyamong pangdang girwa. Chimbo ding chungwa gu.
When you were the Tarachera, when you were seven that Lagoran China or son, and the Tame the Tomani Gaja from Mindoro.
Yeah, so here we're only, demarcating these afflictions, great, medium, and small, and their kind of breadth of grossness or subtlety from the manifest level. This is not including the notion of abandoning them together with their seeds, with the countermeasure of the wisdom realizing non-self. That's different.
And then
yeah, and here also there's no introduction of the thought of renunciation either.
Oh yeah,
we'll stop with today.
Page 31, think we get one. Saji Rera Blanchine Degan Party
Sange Shinto
Yoyi Drogan Namda Jinga Jopa Sho Jetsun Lama Kunze Rabden Jing Namka Jin Le Chukyo Gyapadan Lo Sam Tempe Draw Me Sa Sung Draw A Man So Tang Tuni Guji Iram Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnayatayami. Due to the merit of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May Supreme Jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase. Whatever slight positive potential I may have created by paying homage, offering and acknowledging my faults, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddhas stay and teach. I now dedicate all this to full awakening. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious one, so it's gone of the 3 times, that I might perform the noble bodhisattva's deeds. May the King of Dharma, Tsongkhapa's way of Dharma practice and flourish. May the omens of obstacles be pacified and all conducive circumstances be complete. The wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, for the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Saviour of the snowland, teachings and transmigratory beings, who makes extremely clear the path that is the unification of emptiness and compassion. To the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso I beseech. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral
Here is my
way,
way.
serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Munjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the 3 jewels. Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please swiftly return. Relying on the 2 accumulations of myself and others in the 3 times, may the teachings of the conqueror Losang Dragpa blaze for a long time. And Rinpoche's prayer on the separate sheet. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Travakutas and Pratika Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings, through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for all mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss.
It's a great loss.
Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels, and the great ways of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam and glory for fortunate disciples.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Matt.
Good night. Thank you, Gisela. Good night, everyone.